Keep the viewers coming in. Keep inviting your friends. Keep those donations rolling to the Romans Release Tournament. It is quite awesome. So, without further ado, Ardeshir, we are getting into Mountain Crossing. What do you think the choice for our Persian... Excuse me, guys. What do you think our choice for our Persian player versus our Greek player is here on Mountain Crossing? How do you think these players are going to choose to play this map?
Carnage is probably going to go Dock Barracks. Vindicator is probably going to go Barracks Dock, I think. In terms of how it goes from there, I don't know. But yeah, I think that's probably what we're going to look at it as for the opening, because yeah, Vindicator's already getting the Barracks. Carnage is notorious for playing Dock first on this map in pretty much any matchup, and then looking for the first opportunity he can to go for proxy Dock or taking all 3 docks on this map, and just doing what he can to hold while doing so, just because he gets such an advantage out of doing it. Meanwhile, Vindicator, like I said, is just really good at his early game aggression on any civ and most maps, and just being able to adapt to what's going on and just apply a lot of pressure while he gets as much out of it as he can, and then techs up behind it quite smartly. So I'll be interested to see if there's a deviation from that, or if it's sort of going to go how I expect it to go.
Yeah, so far, as you mentioned there, Carnage going for that early dock. So, and you know, the cool thing about this map is that because this tree line is so close to this dock, or so close to the water in the back of the base, the dock is able to serve as that tree line storehouse as well for the early game. So Carnage going for that early dock, whereas Vindicator kind of exactly, Ardeshir, you're pretty much calling it spot on here. Vindicator does go for the barracks first, and then we assume we'll probably see a dock from him at some point in the near future. But he is getting those spearmen onto the field first, and he's going to try to come across the map here and pressure Carnage. But Carnage very smartly has not gone for the hunt yet, so he is gathering long distance, in fact, from his berry bushes. Of course, with the early dock, he also has the advantage of having these fishing ships being able to provide food gathering for him. So Carnage, we'll see if he's able to defend this early aggression versus or against Vindicator, or defend this early aggression of Vindicator, I should say. Then I think Carnage is going to have a significant economic advantage to start the game.
Well, that's it. He sort of is able to undo the spear pressure because he hasn't taken a hunt. He's well tucked into the dock, and unless he gets really unlucky with the map seed, he's pretty much able to defend. Like right now, the spears have to pretty much be brushed up right against the dock to not take TC fire, and he sort of take the long way around to actually get there, Vindicator, so it's not going to be easy for him to try and put any early pressure on Carnage from here without getting more spears and putting himself even further behind.
For sure. Vindicator seeing what trouble he can make here with his spearman. He's kind of moving around these trees here to see what information he can gather about Carnage here. Carnage is throwing down a storehouse on these berries and doubles as a nice storehouse for this stone mine here. These spearmen are going to be able to pressure this wood line here for Carnage. We'll see if Carnage makes use of these fishing ships. These fishing ships do have an attack, so that is going to be nice here. And Carnage, very smart, very excellent player there, is able to identify the low health spearmen and pick on those low health spearmen first. Let's see if he's able to get a second. He does not get a second. So Vindicator escapes with one spearman, or I'm sorry, with only one spearman lost, but I don't know that he got much for that Ardeshir, other than maybe some knowledge, maybe a little bit of pressure on Carnage, but I don't think he got much for that push there.
No, I don't think he did. I think Carnage ended up, because he's got the quicker dock up here on the top side and managed to gather a bit more in the meantime because it's a greedier opening from him. And I think he really deliberately actually left one of those low villages alive, low spearmen alive, and focused down another to get it as low as possible while leaving it alive, which is sort of something I've seen some people at the top level do from time to time because it locks up their opponent's population. They either have to lose this unit or just hold them on for a single attack's worth of health. Which he sort of did at the end there with the TC instead of focusing the low health spear, which I thought was really cool. And now it's going to fall anyway because the fishing ship's right there to deal with it anyway. So it's already gotten 2 kills basically because of the way Carnage set that up.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant there from Carnage. Carnage is going to try to control this northern lake as well. He does have a galley out, so Vindicator, you know, he maybe dropped the ball a little bit here. He got this dock down, but he did not have ready a trireme to come out, so he is a little bit low on gold. In fact, he's not gathering from gold. He is now, but Vindicator's not going to be able to get out this trireme in time to defend this northern dock, so looks like Carnage is going to control this lake up here.
And he's going to he might get a villager kill for free here too, so even better for him and even worse for Vindicator.
Vindicator still perusing the map with his spearmen here to see what kind of trouble he can make, but he just was not able to get enough damage onto Carnage despite the fact that he got his racks up, and he is actually just now getting a dock in the back of his base, so perhaps a bit of an oversight there for Vindicator, just now getting his dock up in the back of his base. He is getting a second town center up. Carnage is also getting his up over here. This is going to provide Carnage with a decent little market line here in terms of the distance, but Vindicator is pretty significantly behind in terms of economy. He's down by 7 villagers and has lost control of the northern lake. Up here at the top is getting his second town center down a little bit later, and is getting the dock of it in the back of his base quite a bit later. So Vindicator playing a little bit from behind here, but we'll see if he can transition to a strong Age 2 army. In terms of the units for the Greeks and the Persians, you know, the Greeks have the ability to produce those Sarasopheroi, which we do see as stables coming down for Vindicator. So the Sarasopheroi are a nice counter to the Persian bowmen, given the mobility and the anti-ranged bonus of the Sares. So we'll see if Vindicator can maybe get some victories on the land here.
I think he's going to have to, because Carnage is definitely going to be making the best use he can out of all that water. He's going to get, well, I think he's already on 3 fishing ships at home. He's in the position to, you know, get on 3 up top, and Vindicator is really only in the position to get 3 at home now. So it's a really hairy position, especially considering he's got the delayed second town center as well. He was really only a barracks ahead in production facilities for all of it. Just because of the nature of, I guess, early rushing off the first barracks.
Carnage has his scout here placed at this northern choke point of Vindicator, so he is going to see if Vindicator does try to send any sneaky units up here to get to this dock for Carnage. Carnage is very protective of his economic advantage here. He is getting stables down, a couple archery ranges, so Vindicator has correctly identified that the Persian player is going to go for that bowman ball, it looks like. And so perhaps with the stables and these Sarasopheroi, he can get some counters onto the field. He's building spearmen as well, so these spearmen are going to be able to defend against the Asabara. And then we may see perhaps an archer range of Vindicator's own. So far, he's not opted to go for such. But he is transitioning a few more villagers here to wood gathering, so we'll see how he transitions there. Meanwhile, Carnage continuing to build his economic advantage here, throwing down several archery ranges, so he's going to start pumping out those bowmen very quickly. And Carnage is going to prepare his units here to move in, but Carnage sending some Asabara across the field, but he's going to run into Vindicator's force here. Vindicator perhaps has an idea to go for this dock. It looks like he's moving his forces to the north, or perhaps he's just going for this northern choke point. Indeed, he possibly is. Yeah, it looks like he's going for this northern choke point here. And look at this. Ardeshir, he is going to spy this market for Carnage. So Vindicator might try to make a play on this market here for Carnage. Try to deal a little bit of economic damage.
Well, that's it. He might not be quick enough to actually kill anything, but he's going to see that all those houses up there as well. Carnage is very quick to try and save this. So Vindicator's going to have to take a good fight here or try and flee, I think.
Yeah, and Carnage now able to just completely block off Vindicator's units here. He does have to. He does need to try to move his Asabara off these spearmen. These spearmen are going to be able to kill quite a few Asabara there, but not enough damage. Vindicator is able to get these series around on these bowmen, but again, just not quick enough. And so slowly but surely, Vindicator is going to lose his force there. So I like the play there from Vindicator to try to cause some early damage onto Carnage's economy, try to get some pressure going. But Carnage just responded so quickly and was able to decimate the small raiding force there of Vindicator. So Vindicator now relegated back to his base and still only has 2 production facilities here, Ardeshir. I'm sorry, he has a 3rd stables up here, but is getting a 4th stables. No archer range. I don't know. You know, it may be prudent to get some Toxotes to try to get a bowman ball of his own or a ranged ball of his own. But he is opting to get a 3rd town center, being that he is an age 3. So Vindicator maybe just trying to catch up economically and see what he can get done here.
I think he's going to try and defend with prods and take advantage of the fact that he's got the quicker age 3, but I think Carnage is just going to see through it and just max out to like a 160 army, 160, and just push straight into him, because look at the population gap already. Like, he's well ahead. Carnage is very near the age 2 max, and Vindicator, even though he's got the age 3, he's well behind on population, and like you said, he's well behind on production facilities. He's in a bit of a resource deficit. He lost those units up on the top side. Even though he did sort of distract Carnage a bit and apply a bit of pressure, he sort of, well, he definitely didn't really win the trade, I don't think.
Yeah, and Carnage is going to be able to deny this town center as well before, or not deny it, but stop it from being built for a moment just before it finished. Killed several villagers there. Carnage already had a 20 plus advantage in terms of villagers. Now is at about a 26 villager advantage, and as you mentioned, Carnage is now essentially maxed out in terms of age 2, while Vindicator has just now hit 100 population and is in age 3. So Vindicator just significantly behind here, and we'll see if Carnage, with this pretty decent size ranged army with these Asabara in front, we'll see if this is enough to deal the killing blow. This could be a good game. Carnage is moving in. He's going to try to deal some economic damage onto these villagers. He's got some reinforcements coming in as well. Vindicator trying to move back into his base to allow these 2 town centers to fire down upon Carnage's army. Carnage is going to move back a little bit, try to get some positioning here, and slowly whittling down the units of Vindicator. Vindicator now in panic mode, throwing down a guard tower. Is it going to be enough? Vindicator trying to encircle the units of Carnage, is doing a decent job of it, but again, Carnage has just got so much pressure. He's pressuring this town center here down to the south, and he's got some units in the north as well that's dealing damage to these villagers in the north. So Carnage is all over Vindicator's base. Vindicator is able to get this kind of center army down for Carnage, but Carnage has got more units streaming across the map. So Vindicator is able to win the engagement in terms of sheer numbers, but at the end of the day, he is still significantly behind because Carnage is still wreaking havoc on his villagers. It's now down to 44 villagers to 86. That's a 42 villager advantage for Carnage and 60 overall population advantage for Carnage. So Vindicator, he was able to live another day, but how many? We don't know. It looks like his days are indeed numbered.
Oh, that's it. Carnage's population has pretty much already bounced back. He really only needs one more set of queues. There we go. Another whole bunch of bowmen. He's only got 10 population left. Vindicator, on the other hand, he's Yeah, he's actually 40 population down from where he should be because he isn't maxed out on houses, and then his population is only about half that, really. And Carnage, in the meantime, he's taken his third town center. He's got all 20 houses, all 24 houses. So he's in a beautiful spot at the moment. He's got upgrades just about to finish up, and I think he's going to take an engagement. And then from here, Vindicator is going to have to do everything he can to hold, and I'm just not sure if he does have enough to hold at this stage.
Yeah, he's trying to throw down some archery ranges. We might see some Peltas come onto the field from these archery ranges. He's continuing to throw out those Prodromos like you predicted earlier. But Carnage, again, death is knocking on the door. Carnage moves in with a large force of Asabara here to the north. We'll be able to get a little bit of damage done here. Meanwhile, Carnage starting to send his primary force into the center of the map here. Carnage is maxed out at 180 populations, got some reinforcements coming down the pike. Meanwhile, Vindicator queuing up several Toxotes, a couple Peltas, but it looks like mainly opting for Toxotes and getting a hoplite onto the field, getting kind of a hodgepodge of units right now. Ardeshir is getting hoplites, he's getting Hippaspis, Spearmen. Really, I think he's just in full panic mode trying to get whatever he can to survive at this point.
Yeah, that's it. I think he even cancelled the Peltas he had in queue to get even more Toxotes. But considering Carnage's force is mainly just Asabara Bowman at this stage, he'd probably just be best off with Peltas, Spearmen, Prodromos as his comp.
Certainly, and Carnage is dealing damage as much as he can with these Asabara champion, and despite the Prodromos' advantage in terms of their anti-cavalry bonus, it looks like Carnage is still just wreaking havoc on the northern economic fields of Vindicator. I'm not sure why Carnage is not choosing to move in as it stands right now. Vindicator only at a 100, actually just 100 population and dwindling, and Carnage, pretty impressive bank even after heading to age 4, and is still just significantly ahead in terms of population. So he does decide to not move in, but he's still just, again, wreaking havoc on these farms and whatnot in the north here for Vindicator with these Asabara. So Vindicator, he's desperately trying to get some units onto the field so he can try to defend against this. So we'll see. He's trying to get a market up as well. So he's got a market going. He's got some walls going on his choke points here. He's got these Prodromos ready, or Sarasophroi ready and waiting. So I'm assuming he's probably got these positioned to try to flank the bowmen that he assumes will be coming in for Carnage. And indeed, Carnage is starting to move in. He's got some villagers here, so I wonder what the idea here is for Carnage. I wonder if we're going to see a fortress or perhaps a siege tower. No, in fact, Carnage is going for the ultimate bad manners. Come on, Carnage, you know better than that. Building a town center right in the middle of his opponent's base here. He's damaging this wall down south. Building an Age 4 town center right in the middle of his opponent's base here. So someone needs to call Carnage and tell him to watch his manners, young man.
They are actually tankier in Age 4 than a Fortress, though, aren't they?
Perhaps, but Ardeshir, don't you dare try to justify this choice.
But it is. It's got close to twice the health pool.
Great point, Ardeshir. You're right. Players, take note. Absolute best strategy in Age of Empires Online. Build town center right outside your opponent's base in Age 4. 100% best strategy. Look at this. Carnage trying to move in. Deal a killing blow here. He's throwing up a fortress as well. He is slowly going to push into the units of Vindicator here. Vindicator still just has not even maxed out on 140 population yet, and is desperately trying to queue up some units here. Has very few resources in the bank. Carnage has plenty of resources in addition to several upgrades coming down from the armory. He's getting out a Palantonin as well, right in his opponent's base. Finally, Vindicator moving in these southern Sarasophroi to try to deal some damage onto the bowmen. Valiant effort from Vindicator, but Carnage is going to take this game number 1. Good game, well played from Carnage and Vindicator.
GG.
GG indeed. So I think Carnage was pretty much solidly in control of that game the entire game.
Yeah, well, I think
Dallin asked
just
real
because it's
quick,
sort of
thanks for the donation of the bits, my friend. Thank you very much for the bits. Dallin asked once again, appreciate you. Go ahead, Ardeshir.
yeah, thanks again, Dallin. Thanks, Chandler, for your big donation of bits earlier too. And yeah, buddy, I think he really went into that with that really well formulated plan of playing as greedy as he sort of knew he could defend against that sort of spear count. And then yeah, things just really spiraled out of control from there.
Indeed. Let's get some quick stats, and then we'll get into game number 2 here. So again, Carnage, pretty significant control of the game from the very beginning. Had his opponent beat significantly in villagers the entire match. Outgathered his opponent by about 20,000 resources, and had a significant lead in terms of technologies as well, 17 technologies. So well played from the very beginning there from Carnage. I think ultimately, you may have touched on this, Vindicator got that dock up late in the back of his base, and just, never really had a footing economically. So
Yeah, it's just really hard to come back when the dock's down. You'd already invested so much into the early aggression, and even if you do get the quicker second TC, and in Vindicator's case his was later, it just doesn't really go well. And especially when Carnage caught him out again on the top side water, yeah, it just seemed to be phase after phase of play going against Vindicator that game, and Carnage just really executing a much more solid game plan.
indeed. So our next match is going to be played on equal footing. Carnage takes game number 1 on Mountain Crossing. So game number 1 goes to our blue player on Mountain Crossing. We are now going to be heading into game number 2, and that map will be on equal footing as chosen by Vindicator. So Vindicator choosing to go for equal footing, and Vindicator has chosen to play the Greeks. So the Greeks are going to come out for Vindicator here. Or I'm sorry, not the Greeks. Carnage chose the Greeks. Vindicator chose the Celts. So we're going to see Vindicator on the Celts, and we're going to see Carnage on the Greeks. So this is, I think, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong here, Ardeshir. I feel as though Celts are probably a little bit favored in this matchup.
I think so early on, just because you do have the mobility up until the hypers come out, and the fact that you sort of can't get enough Saris to really apply any pressure to the Celt infantry before they just outright kill you, because especially the spears are the cheapest part of them. And once the Bard Hall upgrades kick in, it's really tough actually trying to stay alive, because yeah, again, you can really only deal any damage to the Celt with Saris, but you're not really incentivized to get them. You want to get Toxotes to deal with the infantry, and you want to get your own hypers to make sure you've got some form of front line. So I do think in the early game at least it's sort of Celt favoured, then more towards later age 2 comes Greek favoured, as you can get out more Saris and you can apply 2 groups worth of pressure out in the map. And then in age 3 it sort of still is a little bit, and then Celt get access to their own bowmen, their own stables units. So yeah, I'm not too sure. I'm certainly not the biggest expert on all the intricacies between the civs, but that's sort of the way I see it, just in terms of like the ways that I guess the power spikes of the civs and the economic flow and what they're able to actually fund on the field. I think that's sort of the way things go. Because Greeks, yeah, they sort of are the weakest of the cavalry rating civs that have cavalry, and then in age 2, and then Celts on the other hand, they don't have age 2 cavalry, but at least they're sort of playing into the matchup where that's least the problem.
Yes, indeed. So we're going to be heading into game number 2 here momentarily, folks. Again, we've got Carnage on the Greeks, Vindicator on the Celts. We're going to be playing on equal footing. And just want to say real quick that we are up to 569. Nice. $569 on the Roman release tournament. So, y'all, you have absolutely blown it out of the water today with the donations and the bits. I think that's over $200 donated today on stream. And I'll tell you guys, I was getting a little frustrated in the beginning with the game not connecting. I think it must have been the fact that I don't know. I don't know what happened, but everything got fixed. We fixed everything up, and here we are, still rolling, and y'all started throwing in those donations, and they just kept rolling. And so I can't thank you guys enough for donating to the Roman release tournament and supporting Age of Empires Online Project Celeste. This is a completely fan-run project by the fan developers, PF2K, and the other developers, the animation team and the balance team. Everyone just put so much work into keeping this game going, this wonderful little game that we love. And so can't thank everyone enough for supporting the scene, supporting the PvP scene, and supporting the game in general. Y'all are much appreciated. And for your troubles, you all have so far gotten some excellent PvP from Zerton and Eerie, and now you're being treated to an excellent series here from Carnage and Vindicator. And y'all, we are barreling towards the grand finals. But here we are in game number 2 of this best of 5, Carnage versus Vindicator on equal footing. And once again, the Celtic winter terrain set. So I like that quite a bit here. But let's get right into the game. The game has been paused by Carnage. Let's check it out. So Carnage has identified that he does not have a hunt on equal footing. Now, someone in chat, specifically maybe Eerie, maybe Recon, they may try to blame this Matt Craver fella, but I just want to let you know that that is not correct. Let's get hashtag blame Recon. Eerie trying to get blame Matt Craver. Get that out of here. Get that out of here. Hashtag blame. No, y'all, for real, we love Recon. Recon has done a ton for the game. He's created new maps. He's on the balance team, all that good stuff. So we appreciate Recon and everything he does. But to be honest with you, sometimes Recon, you could do better, buddy. Okay, just do better. Do better for the people. Again, I kid. Much love all around. So here we go. Take number 2. Yes. Hashtag blame a raccoon. Raccoon Recon. Recon Raccoon. So game number 2 starting up here. Let's take a look. Both players seem to have their hunts just fine. Getting a little bit of lag here. And
Vindicator has struck already.
Vindicator.
This was Carnage's plan. This is all planned.
All right, so we're going to give Vindicator one more chance or not one more chance, but we're going to give him one restart, okay? One restart. He did disconnect, so we're going to give him one restart. and then if he disconnects again, then we are going to have to give the admin win to Carnage. So we're going to give him one try, or we're going to give him one freebie on the disconnects, and then we will give the admin win to Carnage here. So real quick, let's see if we can get him back in here.
You know, I'm going to take a minute to thank you and to thank Wout for casting this finals and streaming this finals, because, boy, sometimes it is a bit of a pain in the bum trying to get the games going between disconnects and games not wanting to start.
Well, I appreciate that, my friend. There is a lot of behind-the-scenes work that kind of goes into it, but I love it. I love casting. I love playing the game, and I appreciate everyone who kind of tunes in, and also you, Ardeshir, for co-casting. I really appreciate all of you and everyone who is a part of the PvP scene, because it's a lot of fun. So it's been a great tournament so far, and we're having, even though we got off to a little bit of a bumpy start, we are having a good final day so far. I think we had an excellent series between Zertan and Erie, so I think that's just going to continue to go here. Let's see if we can get Vindicator back in. So guys, we're just going to get Vindicator reconnected here. I believe Vindicator is down in South Africa. So a bit of a distance there to connect. So just giving Vindicator here a moment to reconnect. Appreciate everyone's patience. So I'm just going to kind of use my discretion here. If Vindicator is not able to reconnect in the next 60 to 120 seconds, then we're going to give game number 2 win to Carnage, and move on to game number 3. We got to keep rolling here. At approximately, let's see here, I believe it was 60. So this was supposed to start at 11:30 or 11:30 my time, and then 2 hours later. So we're coming up in about 30 minutes. The next match is supposed to start. So we got to keep moving here if we can. But I appreciate everyone's patience. If you guys will just hang tight. Getting Vindicator back in here. Madlib says, behind the scene work is ordering pizza. Listen, bro. First of all, you don't know me, okay? You don't know who I am. Madlib, so back off, bruh. No, actually, I had pizza on Friday. It was excelente. Marcos. Primo. No, Friday was yesterday. I had it like Thursday or something. Or Wednesday. I don't know. I've lost track of time. Let's see. Arizal says, thanks to all the streams all the time. There are always new games to watch pretty much every day. Yeah, Arizal, it's been great. This tournament has lasted the past 2 weeks or so. So it's been a lot of fun casting and streaming the tournaments. So we really appreciate that, Lacalm, for setting up the tournament. Ooh! Project Celeste just linked us to the first pending emote for Project Celeste's Twitch channel, which is KeltW. KeltW. So, that is pretty lit. Okay, KeltW is coming in for the emotes. All right, so we've got a few subs on the Project Celeste channel now. So we're going to have some emotes, which is lit AF fam. Wout's favorite emote. I think it's everybody's favorite emote. Okay, Kelt W. Just look at that beautiful, beautiful man. I think Wout tried to use it already. Vindicator is headed back into the game, folks. So we're going to have Vindicator right back in here in just a moment. So hang on to your britches. All right. Hang on to your britches. Grab your popcorn because we're headed into game number 2. But while we wait, a quick word from our sponsors. Today's stream is brought to you by Ardeshir's Cigarettes. Ardeshir Cigarettes, best in the business. Smoke 17 dimes a day and don't die. Ardeshir Cigarettes.
Fucking hell. That's hilarious.
The Everlasting Life Cigarette. Ardeshir Cigarettes. Get yours today. Our next sponsor. Gruente 88 for men. Gruente 88 for men. Are you tired of smelling like Ardeshir cigarettes? Are you tired of smelling like Andy Pierce's feet? Are you tired of smelling like Spaniard's apartment after he orders pizza? Then buy Gruente 88 for men. Guys, we don't actually have sponsors. Although I am amazed at Ardeshir's ability to smoke every 5 minutes, and yet he still walks among us. So long live Ardeshir! All right, Vindicator is back in the party, guys, and we are headed into game number 2. Ardeshir, get hype. Third time's a charm, right?
Vindicator is going to bring it back, and the Vindiconnector will not strike again until game 3 or 4, maybe. Hopefully.
Hopefully. Also, I just want to say really quick to Gruncha. So his name is actually pronounced Gruncha88. And Gruncha88 is in chat. So everyone shout out Gruncha88 for one of the best Project Celeste Twitch channel memes. So Gruncha88 is the man, but the product behind the man is Gruncha88 for men. Big shout out to him. So we are started in game number 2. Let me get the game up here for you guys, so you can stop listening to me act a fool, and we can actually get some excellent Age of Empires Online action. Are you ready to rumble in real time, folks? Here we go. Game number 2. Vindicator, red Celts. Carnage, blue Greeks. And look at this, Ardeshir. Already 4 goats for Carnage. Absolutely insane.
That's kind of just master plan, isn't it? Just leave every game with a crappy seed until you get one with a perfect seed and then win.
Yeah, exactly. I think that was Carnage's plan all along. He knew Vindicator would disconnect on the second try, so he called for the restart on the first map. No, I'm kidding. But I am impressed with the amount of goats already in Carnage's grasp. Barracks coming.
Make him...
Go ahead.
Does that make him the goat?
Oh, the Goat Man, the greatest of all time. The greatest of all time and goat gathering for sure. So barracks coming down for Vindicator here. Vindicator does get his barracks up a little bit earlier, so we might see Vindicator try to get a little bit of early pressure onto Carnage. Maybe try to get Carnage a little bit frazzled here. Carnage is just now getting his barracks up. He has identified his next hunts here, and Vindicator as well has identified the surrounding part of his base and is sending his scout across the map here. And he's already got some spearmen out with some nice looking vanity here on him. It looks like perhaps some Tiki vanity or no, Norse vanity perhaps. And Carnage also getting some spearmen out as well. So looks like Carnage is going to be ready for any early aggression from Vindicator, but Vindicator does have a nice amount of spearmen here, almost 4, almost 5. But look at this, Carnage, again, absolute mad lad is trying to steal these goats. Just such bad manners, and in fact, Vindicator, I think, accidentally killed a goat a little bit away from his town center there, but Vindicator is going to slaughter those goats so that Carnage cannot try to steal the goats again. Very good play there from Vindicator. You got to protect your goats. Here comes a push from Vindicator. Vindicator's going to try to push onto that house. Doesn't quite catch it before it was built, but is going to try to get this villager. May be able to get some damage. Does get some damage, but doesn't kill the villager before Vindicator is scared away here by the spearmen of Carnage. So he's going to try to poke in, but didn't get much done. So he's going to pull out there. Not to be confused with Zerton and his tactic of pulling out, but nevertheless, Carnage still gathering his spearmen here. So pretty standard here from both of our players here, Ardeshir.
Sorry, I just still caught up in the whole pull out joke. Yeah, I mean, Vindicator, he's sort of still got the spears on the way rather than tunneling into age 2 behind, you know, just the 5 or 6 spears. So it'll be interesting to see if he can deal any more damage from here on out, because I think he, now that he's committed this heavily to them, he sort of needs to, but if he does, then he can pull ahead. And he is going to snipe a villager right now, and that's nice to see. Backing out just before he can lose all the spears, which is really great. Just going to go in from the other side. Just missing some of Carnage's spears, and yeah, force another pullback. Might even snipe that villager, so this is sort of really how I want to see him approach Celts going into this, especially at this level of play where he really needs to make something happen. Make every second count, make every spear count. And he seems to be doing just that. Sorry?
Absolutely. Vindicator's trying to get this early pressure onto Carnage, kind of like you identified there, that early aggression from the Celts, and does get quite a bit of damage onto several villagers, but is not able to drop any of them. He did get some earlier, but didn't drop any in that push there. So Vindicator now falling back, does lose most of his spears, and now Carnage has got him on the run. Carnage is pushing across the map here, going to try to maybe counterattack. So we'll see if Carnage is going to be able to do any damage with this counterattack. Meanwhile, Vindicator has hit age 2. Carnage already in age 2. Continuing to gather long distance there from the wood, but sending his villagers over here to build this town center. A nice little town center to go into those berries and these hunts. And Vindicator, we'll see where he puts his second town center, is going to lose a villager there, as Carnage again counter pushes with these spears and now has a Hippaspis on the field, although Vindicator also has his longsword onto the field. So it looks like Ardeshir, Vindicator's not quite ready for his town center yet if he just takes these villagers. So he should be throwing down his town center here shortly. But so far, Carnage, it looks like, was able to repel that early aggression from Vindicator, and now is turning up the aggression himself.
Yeah, that's it. And Vindicator needs to be careful to not take too many losses here, because otherwise Carnage can really just turn things around and push into him consistently. Because once he gets his own Hippaspis and his range on the way, it's very hard for the Celt player if they haven't given themselves an early lead, to really get out of being on the back foot.
Very true. So, see if Carnage, he's trying to jostle for position here, but Vindicator is trying to keep up with the units of Carnage there. Push in, do a little bit of damage, fall back out. Real quick, I just want to say in chat, Gruncha says, do the players use the equipment's bonuses during PvP? The answer, it looks like WoW already answered it, but no, in PvP it's just visual. In PvP, every unit is balanced, hashtag perfectly balanced, thanks to Recon and team. Now, the champion mode PvP, the gear and all that good stuff does not have any effect on gameplay. It's only visual, Gruncha. So, ideally, we're getting balanced matches here. Champion PvP also has different stats than normal, like the normal game, PvE and all that good stuff. Champion mode has its own stats. So, the balance team does a great job of balancing out our civs here and continuing to throw out PvP updates for the game. So Vindicator tried to get a little bit of damage done there, but does lose most of his units, so he's going to move back. He's trying to get more longswords onto the field. Did go for a double racks. Looks like is opting for an archery range. So Ardeshir, I guess Vindicator is anticipating the Toxotes of the Celt or of the Greeks and is going to try to get out some slingers.
Well, that's it. The slingers are good against both the Toxotes and the Saris. So they're just a real nice to have if the Greek player is going to get anything other than hypers. And, I mean, he's not going to get spearmen, obviously, because you aren't going to get cavalry. So, realistically, it's a hyper tox comp, usually. But sometimes they will get a small number of Saris just to try and deal harass, just because that's the only thing that they've got that are going to be quicker than your infantry as a Celt player once your Bard Hall movement speed upgrade kicks in.
So Vindicator is back on Carnage's side of the map. Going to try to see if he can deal some damage. Carnage, meanwhile, sent in a group of Hippaspus to see if he could get anything done in Vindicator's base, but does have to fall back here. Vindicator moving into the front, but it is going to be met by several Toxotes and Hippaspus, so he's not going to be able to get much done there. Meanwhile, he's starting to, again, get out those slingers. And I am happy to see that he does have the Sacred Grove down now, so he will be able to get out some Druids. So he's going to try to transition to this Age 2 Celt composition here. And if he can micro well, then he may be able to win some engagements versus these Hippaspus and Toxotes for our Greek player. So Carnage is happy to just kind of sit in his base as it stands right now. He is still kind of moving across the field with a few Hippaspus. Maybe get a little bit of raiding done. Still gathering goats. Got another goat here on the western side of the map. Is continuing to explore the map. But meanwhile, Vindicator has decided, despite the fact that he doesn't really have any druids yet, he's decided to move out with his force here. He wants to, again, it looks like he's decided that the key to his victory is to try to turn up the pressure as early and often as possible against Carnage. So he did split his forces as well and tried to go in for a two-pronged attack, but Carnage was ready for it. Does have a group of units over here. Vindicator is going to try to micro those slingers onto the archers. He is able to get some damage, but ultimately Carnage does win that engagement on the east. Meanwhile, on the western front, Vindicator trying to push onto this archer range, but Carnage just too many units. Despite the fact that Vindicator perhaps has the unit composition advantage, he's just not got enough units to deal any real damage to Carnage here. Carnage does have the macro advantage as well. He's got about a 10 villager lead economically. So Carnage is able to produce more units than Vindicator, and so Vindicator is going to be forced to fall back and fight another day. Meanwhile, on the base of Vindicator, Vindicator is throwing down an armory, and so he's going to try to get out some armory upgrades to enhance his military here. He is still streaming these units across the map. He needs to replace that waypoint, and he does. So he's going to regather his forces here. Carnage, I believe, is ready for it. He's about 20 ahead in population total, and still has the villager advantage of about 10. So Carnage kind of, you know, as we might expect from the Greek player, kind of playing it slow here. And I don't know, Ardeshir, maybe he is looking to head into Age 3 and see what he can get done in Age 3.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's got enough units to be able to hold, but not necessarily enough to really be able to overrun Vindicator as it stands. So maybe taking Age 3 is the better option. And just sort of playing it cool for the time being. Because, I mean, he is getting up to 140 pop now. But you might want to choose to take the Age 3 just because Greek is a civ that is quite strong the longer the game goes on, feels. Except in some ultralight situations against some of the other civs. Especially with things like hoplite gastro compositions, or being able to have access to the prods as the Celt player gets access to any of their cavalry on their horsemen.
Right, so Carnage is now moving out. Let's see if Carnage can deal any decisive damage here. He's going to move on to this Bard Hall with his force on the western flank of Vindicator's base. Meanwhile, he's moved these Toxotes and Hephaspus over here to the western corner, so I don't know what his idea is here. Maybe he's about to establish a market line over here, perhaps. Vindicator's primary force is down here to the south and kind of the middle of the map, but it does have a nice amount of slingers and longswords here in his base, so he's going to move these back to try to deal with the marauding forces of Carnage. Carnage is going to move onto this tree line, see if he can get a few villager kills. But Vindicator is going to try to see if he can get his own damage done, but Carnage is ready and waiting for him. So, yeah, Carnage is going to repel the units of Vindicator, and look at this. Carnage has got another force here that's going to move into the western part of Vindicator's base here, get onto these gold miners, and he's still dealing damage here in the north. So Vindicator kind of trying to deal with this, and Carnage, again, you know, Carnage has been doing a great job of this recently in his play, where he really controls the map with his units. He controls the map overall, just with the fact that he's just all over his opponent's base. He's got so much raiding going on, so many split forces, and so Carnage just really forces you, if you are not able to multitask and deal with multiple fronts at the same time, then you are going to quickly fall to the might of Carnage.
He's actually got 2 hypers trapped inside the stone mine there.
They went looking for some pretty rocks, and they met their demise as a result. They were trying to go rock climbing, but ultimately it didn't work out well for them. So, rip to those Hephaspus. Carnage moving in again with another significant force here. He is maxed out at 160 population and is headed to Age 3. Meanwhile, Vindicator has not quite broken 140 population yet. So, Vindicator playing a little bit from behind here. He does still have another force over here, kind of out of position. He needs to decide what to do with this force. Does he bring it back to defend, or does he go on the offensive with it? And look at this. Carnage has now split his force into 3 groups. So he's got a group here on the west. This eastern group is moving to the northern part of the map, which is the back of Vindicator's base. And he has fallen back with the southern force here. So it's got, again, three groups of units moving onto these houses here for Vindicator. You're going to take down several houses. So Vindicator is now capped at 140. So Vindicator cannot produce any more units until he gets more houses down. And here's Carnage again with these reinforcements coming in. Going to hit these villagers here in the southern part of Vindicator's base. Vindicator does move his forces here to the north to deal with this northern group from Carnage. But meanwhile, Carnage is still wreaking havoc across the southern lands of Vindicator's base. So Vindicator, again, just doing the best he can to keep up with Carnage, but Carnage is just so fast and so crisp in his splits here and his rating that he's just able to, again, just completely smother you with units all over the map. So now that Carnage is an age 3, he's not transitioning to any age 3 units yet, but he is establishing his market line. Establishing the market line, and Vindicator is trying to see if he can create any momentum here. He's moving in with a part of his force and has another force here on the eastern side. He's trying to deal with these units from Carnage, but Carnage has the numbers advantage over here. Vindicator was able to get a few villagers over here at the front of Carnage's base, but now Carnage is able to move his forces over here back to deal with Vindicator. So Vindicator, once again, tried to get some damage done, but ultimately is a bit of a failed push here. Carnage is going to try to throw down a forward fortress. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I think Vindicator's just being punished. Like, he's got a lot of slingers, and there's a good count of them, but he's just really being punished on the fact that he's not tagging as well as he could be with them, I don't think. And Carnage's Toxotes are just able to absolutely destroy Vindicator's front line of his long swordsman, so the Hypers are able to just chew through the slingers as well.
Indeed. So Carnage, he's investing heavily into the Hypaspis. He does still have several Toxotes, but like you mentioned, Vindicator just doesn't have as much of a meat shield, and he is not doing a good enough job with his micro in terms of getting these slingers onto those Toxotes. So Vindicator a little bit behind in the micro game here as well. Carnage is going to protect this fortress as it comes up. He is, again, moving some units into Vindicator's base. So Vindicator desperately trying to defend his base against these raiders. But Carnage is pushing in, dealing a lot of damage to these villagers, and has won this engagement down here, kind of in the southeast part of Vindicator's base. Is going to deny this stone mine, kill a few villagers there, and Vindicator is going to call a GG. So Carnage, once again in convincing fashion, takes game number 2.
GG.
GG. Let's get some quick stats and try to quickly get into game number 3 here so we can try to kind of finish on time. So, again, since the mid-game, the population advantage was strongly in Carnage's favor. He was right there in terms of military, and then villager, again, ever since the mid-game, the villager population was significantly ahead for Carnage. He outgathered his opponent by about 11,000 resources, and technologically, he also doubled his opponent's technologies. And again, Carnage just had complete control of the map, splitting his forces here, really keeping Vindicator on his toes, and Vindicator was just never able to deal with that. And as you mentioned, Ardeshir, he was never able to micro those units effectively enough to gain an upper hand in those engagements.
Yeah, so I think, yeah, we've already really gone over it, but I think Carnage just really pushed him to the breaking point when it came to the multi-pronged fights and being able to micro your way through them. And so when it got to the stage where it was just Slinger long swordsman versus hyper bowman, you know, Carnage was more able to effectively take those fights because he would just focus down all the meat line and then focus down the back line, whereas in that position, Vindicator can't afford to do the same thing just because of the nature of his composition. And when he does, and which he's basically has to do, playing, you know, sort of that mixed up across so many different skirmishes, that's when he, you know, that coupled with the fact that he did take early losses beforehand, I think he threw away a little bit more than he could have. His early spear pressure was really good, but the fact that he has so much damage split across so many villages that didn't actually die is also something that I think he could have worked on. A couple of times he couldn't help it, obviously, just Carnage was pulling things back at the perfect time to save it. And, you know, even baiting with villages, so to speak, you know, that's always something to be careful of, especially, you know, when you've got low health spears like Celt ones. Taking town center fire, there's 2 or 3 spearmen of your opponents just about to attack it. Do I go in and get that last hit on the villager, or do I pull back? And You know, even the lag comes into that as well. Yeah, you know, Casper's saying in the chat, Vindy's rush was great, but he just didn't do enough damage with it. And then, you know, coupled with how he played those mid-game fights and how we went over it, that's what really sealed the deal, and that's where Carnage was able to really pick him apart.
Certainly. So, we're going to head into game number 3 here, folks. Carnage has chosen to play the Celts. Vindicator has chosen to switch to the Persians. And Vindicator has chosen the map of Treasure Island. So once again, we are being treated to my favorite map, Treasure Island. We'll see if Vindicator's Persians can gain the upper hand, or if Carnage will close out this best of 5, 3-0 with his Celts here. So, folks, let me know, does Vindicator pick up a game, or will Carnage close it out?
Surely Vindicator can muster the strength to make it not a 3-0.
We'll see. He's down on his luck. He's beaten but not forgotten. We'll see if the underdog can pull off his miraculous win, or if he will channel his best Captain Almost of yours truly and ultimately come close but no cigar. Now, if Vindicator does lose here, he will go on to play the Zerton in the losers bracket finals. So he does have another chance if he loses here, but because this will be Vindicator's first loss if he does in fact lose. But Zerton is also another strong player, so Vindicator, if he can, he really wants to get to the grand finals here against Carnage, but it's looking pretty dire for him so far. So Treasure Island, we've got Vindicator's Red Persians against Carnage's Blue Celts. Carnage dealing with a Rhino early here. Rhino being a horny animal, as described by the in-game tooltip. So you didn't. If you repeat that and your mother asks you what you mean by the Rhino being a horny animal, tell her that you heard it not from me, but from Age of Empires Online. I kid. So, barracks coming down here for Vindicator. 2 villagers on the barracks, getting his barracks up pretty quickly. And no barracks yet for Carnage. Is Carnage going to go? Indeed, he is going to go for that early dock. Going pretty greedy here, Ardeshir.
He is king of the greed, Carnage, when he wants to be. When he's not playing stupid aggressive, he's king of the greed.
So will that pay off for him going for that early dock? Vindicator is going to stream his Spar across the map here. He did send his scout, or he is currently sending his scout through Carnage's base, and so he is going to see that Carnage does not quite have a racks up yet, so he may try to take advantage of this. But look at this, Vindicator very intelligently is sending his scout over here, and he is going to find that dock. So he does find the dock and is going to redirect his Sparabara towards that dock. Or is he? It looks like maybe instead he's going to go for this hunt. What do you think, Ardeshir, in this situation? Do you send your Sparabara for the dock, or do you send it for the hunt?
Hunt first, when you've only got that many, and the body scout's just about killing the first one. when you've only got 1 or 2, I think you're probably better off going for the hunt when you know there's no barracks. And if your opponent cuts fishing ships, gets the early houses and age up at home, if you don't take the dock in time, you're gonna basically be forced back out of there without having gotten a great deal anyway. Especially on a map like this where the water can be quite a fair distance, like it's quite a fair travel time for Vindicator to actually get there. And if he's focusing the dock, and if there's like a scout and a villager, and possibly a single fishing ship focusing down, you know, or lots of fishing ships, or fast warship, then you might not get it in time. So it probably is the safer bet to go with the hunt first. And that way you're also putting your opponent on the back foot as well.
Sounds about right. So, in Carnage, he's just using his scout to slowly whittle away at these spar bar. Did kill one spar bar entirely with his scout. Meanwhile, Carnage continuing to churn out fishing ships, or as I like to refer to them, fish and chips, for our Brits out there. These fish and chips are getting onto these spar bar. They do have an attack, so they're going to be able to kill a couple spar bar. Spar bar trying to bring down this dock. More are coming in, and look at this. He is going to find this dock for Carnage. He's trying to get up a second dock here, so Vindicator able to deny that second dock, so nice little win there for Vindicator. Vindicator trying to keep up this pressure. He was able to force Carnage off of this hunt, and is now pressuring the fishing or the docks of Carnage. So, but instead, looks like Vindicator choosing to rally his spar bar away, or at least these. It looks like he's going to go back in with these lower spar bar, still trying to pick off this dock, and is now moving in with these primary spar bar. Barracks is down now for Carnage. Carnage and Vindicator both still in age 1. So Carnage now queuing up some spearmen. Looks like both of these players are committing pretty heavily to this age 1.
They both really want that water, I would say.
Indeed. Vindicator has a dock down. Now Carnage coming down with a second dock, which is very forward, pretty much in Vindicator's half of the hemisphere here. So in terms of the water, we'll see if Carnage is able to use these two docks to win control of the water. But as we saw in Zerton versus Erie, you know, sometimes the earlier dock doesn't necessarily win it. We'll see which player is able to get to age 2 first. Vindicator is headed to age 2. Meanwhile, Carnage is still in age 1 and has not queued up age 2, and has now forced Carnage with his spar bar. He's forced Carnage off of his wood line. So now Carnage is forced to gather somewhat long distance near his town center here. So Vindicator doing everything he can, is doing not a half bad job so far to keep up this pressure on Carnage.
Yeah, I thought he was going to have a bit of a blowout on his wood there. He got up to about 400, but he seems to have got it all spent now. So Vindicator is doing a nice job at really keeping Carnage at bay. He's got the water himself. He'd managed to deny a dock, you know, force back Carnage off the wood now, and it's actually quicker on the age 2. So Vindicator's in not too bad of a spot right now.
And we'll see if he can continue to parlay this into a strong performance here in game number 3. Carnage is beginning to pump out some, or no, yeah, he is pumping out a swan ship, but not before Vindicator already has one on the field and a second one coming. So like you mentioned, with Vindicator being early age 2, he's able to get out those earlier warships, but he does need to get them in position as soon as he can. Here comes that second galley, so he is now going to move these galleys across the water. Does he know about this? Or yes, he does definitely know about this middle dock, but he's going to choose to go for the southern dock instead. I guess correctly identifying that this southern dock is a little bit lower on HP. Meanwhile, in terms of his land forces, he has moved his spar bar out of the base of Carnage, but we'll see if he chooses to move them back in as he tries to get Carnage's attention on the water here. Vindicator's got another galley coming out, 2 swan ships coming out for Carnage here, and he does have these fish and chips, aka fishing ships, to be able to repair the swan ship as well. Look at this crazy play here from Carnage. He's so far dodging these attacks from Vindicator and is able to almost get down a galley. Here comes another swan ship, 3rd galley for Vindicator. So very heavy naval engagement, and as I predicted, Vindicator trying to maybe cause some trouble with his spar bar on land, trying to micro as best he can, but he is at somewhat of a disadvantage with the fact that Carnage does have these fishing boats, so these fishing boats are able to repair, and at the same time, excellent play there from Carnage. Ardeshir, both galleys go down at the exact same time. That was incredible micro there from Carnage.
Yeah, it's really smart of him to split the attacks up there to finish them off just in time. And as soon as they died, he'd rallied all the fishing ships straight back out to gather straight away. So Carnage is not messing around. The only thing he is messing around with is his production queue, which is only just filling back up now. But he's actually about 15 population ahead almost, so things are looking really, really healthy right now for the Kelp player. He's got a fair bit more in the bank, and Vindicator been pushed off the water. He's a little bit further back on score. He's taken his H2 town center, but so is Carnage, so there doesn't really seem to be any advantages for Vindicator at all at the moment.
Yeah, Carnage has won the water. Vindicator has relinquished control of the seas to his German adversary here. Meanwhile, Vindicator dealing once again with a Rhino. This horny beast here. Grunja asked earlier, with all of this talk about the Rhino, if the stream should be rated R for Rhino. Nice joke there, Grunja. Thanks for the memes, bro. But Carnage, again, he's taking down these docks here, and Vindicator, I'm not sure if this is the right call from Vindicator. He's got his spar bar here on this dock, trying to take down this dock, but again, at this point, he has firmly lost control of the seas, so he needs to transition to the land. We saw an excellent transition for, who was it earlier, that won the water, but then also transitioned to the land pretty well.
Zerton, maybe?
Zerton, yeah, I think it was Zerton who did it.
No, Erie, possibly.
Yeah.
Well, they both had games where they did, sorry.
Exactly. Both players had games where they won the water, but then were able to transition to the land very quickly. But Vindicator, when you lose the water, you've got to try to get a leg up on your opponent on the land before your opponent is able to get anything going on the land. If you lose the water as quickly as possible, you've got to transition to your land units so that you can try to get a leg up there and essentially get far enough ahead on land that it, in a sense, negates your opponent's water advantage. But so far, I don't think Vindicator has done that. He needs to try to ramp up this pressure, and it looks like he is going to try to do just that. He's moving in with a couple groups of units here, so we'll see.
Yeah, well, it doesn't look like Carnage has a lot to actually defend with, but the H3 has just kicked in, so the town centers are going to be just that bit stronger. And he's going to be able to field a bit of a wider variety of units out of the barracks because he's Road Raiders he can access, so he can also start dealing with range tech out of the barracks. So he's queued up a whole bunch of woads, but there's not really a lot here to actually defend against Vindicator's land force, so...
Yeah.
Interesting to see how he goes, because Vindicator's boomed up to like a good population lead of about 20 here. 25 almost. Oh, more than.
He is capped at 115. He needs to throw down some more houses here so that he can he's not building this house. He needs to get houses down so he can get past that 115 population. But as you mentioned, he is pressuring Carnage pretty heavily here. Carnage, if he can perhaps hold, then he may be able to stabilize, and again, we'll have a nice macro advantage as a result of winning the seas there. But Vindicator dealing quite a bit of damage here. 52 villagers for Carnage to 48 for Vindicator. So Vindicator trying to whittle away Carnage's villager advantage. Here come the Woad Raiders for Carnage. So these Woad Raiders are going to try to get onto those range units. And look at this. Vindicator also bringing down the market for Carnage as well. So denies the market and is dealing a decent amount of damage to the villagers here in Carnage's base. But Carnage is able to push Vindicator out of the front of his base. Vindicator still trying to stream in reinforcements here, but he's going to have to regroup and try to reassess his attack here. But nice pickup here for Vindicator. If he sees it, he might be able to get another villager or two. He's trying to move these Asabara maybe into this tree line here to hide them, but they are going to be found by these spearmen, so these Asabara may meet their demise. Meanwhile, Carnage chasing Vindicator across the map here with these Woad Raiders, queuing up more Woad Raiders as well, and it looks like Vindicator going to go ahead and throw out the GG, loses the Asabara, loses this engagement in the middle, and recognizes that that was perhaps his last chance, and
GG. I thought for a second there Vindicator might have been able to bring that one back and we would be going into game 4, but perhaps not. I think if he had picked up on the fact that Carnage had all those Word Raiders popping out at once, right behind his archers. I think he might have been able to deal with that a bit better. Micro the archers immediately onto that, the land unit. Some of the melee to actually face tank. Because basically the moment once he lost that bowman ball in the middle of Carnage's base, it was pretty much over, because he didn't have enough to actually defend at home. Because he'd pretty much been parade pushing everything in. And I think if he had had a little bit more deliberation in that final fight, as well as maybe kept some units back in reserve, and instantly picked up on that gold mine hit there, I think he probably could have had Carnage on